Hello, Claire. I don't know what to call myself, Queen Claire Elizabeth. I just prefer Claire. I'm here to talk about Prince Harry's spare book. I finally finished it last night, and I wanted to sleep on it to really know what I wanted to say. Sometimes I don't know everything I want to say about something until I've slept on it. When I wake up the next morning, I let my subconscious kind of percolate to the surface, and then I have more of an understanding of things. I realized that I didn't realize how much I had read of this book. This is how much I had read, this being the beginning here. I had read previously up to like 160, maybe 161. So I didn't have as much reading as I had anticipated, and I probably should have gone back over everything just to remind myself of everything. But I pretty much have a feeling and remember what it was. I mean, if I need to do another video on rereading the first 160 pages, I will. But I really want to bring to you my fresh impression after finishing the book last night on February 16th, Thursday. I went out and bought these annotation tabs. I'm not used to doing that. Usually this is what I was doing prior to the tabs. I was doing this. Yeah, and I don't like to do that. I feel like it ruins the book. I really enjoy these tabs. These are great. Let me start by saying this book made me cry. It was the epilogue that got to me. After reading the entire book and then reading the epilogue, knowing that the Queen died, that's when it all came to a head for me, and I cried. Reading about the little hummingbird, I don't know why that made me cry, but it did. Just brought it all together. It really did, Harry. This book makes me very sad. And you know, I know there's a whole community of people on YouTube and in the press who don't believe a word of this book. I don't know why. It's the most authentic and honest book I've read in a long time. I mean, it's so beautifully, the story is so beautifully told. It's definitely in Harry's own voice. I know he had somebody help him write it, but it's definitely Harry who told the story, whether it was verbally or writing notes or talking to this guy. The guy who wrote it did a really good job capturing Harry's voice and portraying the scenes and pictures and ideas that Harry wanted to communicate. And I can't help but be so sad. I'm so sad for him. So sad for Meghan. But I guess this is what coming to America is all about, right? This is what America is. It's about freedom, and there's always a very high price that you pay for freedom. I'm still paying for my own freedom, and you know, I have to take responsibility for all of this because I was the queen when I was 8 years old. I was born Queen Elizabeth. I know it sounds really odd and crazy, whatever, but I was put into another body. I was 8 years old. I was my 8-year-old psyche. It was me at 8 years old, you know, not any older, put into an embryo. I'm assuming I was born her. I know I must have been. I don't remember, obviously. I don't remember anything. Very little, just maybe a little teeny snippet or two, and that's it. I don't remember anything. So I can't literally be held responsible for everything she did. It wasn't me. It was 8-year-old me in another body, in another brain. But karmically, I am responsible because I was that person who was Queen Elizabeth. And if Queen Elizabeth had shown more leadership, had shown true leadership, I just can't help but think that all that's happening today to Harry and Meghan and me and everyone wouldn't be happening. She just put her foot down as the monarch and put an end to all this craziness. She was not a leader. Queen Elizabeth was not a leader. She was a follower who obeyed every word of the courtesans. Is that what they're called? Who thought, oh, tradition is the rule of law, or tradition is the queen. There's a reason why the queen is a person, not a law, not a tradition. Because that person is supposed to be very carefully selected by way of gene pool so that they follow their heart and do what's right. When you follow your heart, it takes a lot of courage to follow your heart. But that's what a leader does. It's a very bold path. I don't care what anyone says about heart. It's not a weak path. The heart is not, following your heart is not the weak thing to do. It's the bold, courageous thing to do. Because almost nobody in this world that we're living in does it. Everybody, let me think, let me concoct a plan, let me follow what they say. Oh, what does everybody think? They don't follow their heart. They don't have a heart. The monarch is supposed to have a heart, and Queen Elizabeth had one, but she didn't use it. She blocked it because she thought it was her weakness. And I know, because I was her. At 8 years old, I didn't like who I was. I didn't like that I cared so much. I hated it. And when they put me in another body like Queen Elizabeth, it was easy to not care. It was easier, I guess I should say. Easier. My brain did not have a heart. My body, the heart is part of the brain. And in Queen Elizabeth's body, I didn't have a heart. Or my heart was blocked. Maybe, I don't know. Did I have a heart? I don't know. She obviously softened with time and realized the error of her ways over time. I know how badly she felt and felt her responsibility in all of this. And here she was celebrating, I don't know how many years on the reign. 70, was it? I don't know. And she was so obsessed with being the longest monarch to sit on the throne for the longest time of all monarchs, and to the point where, she lost the whole point. And I really don't think there was anyone more dear to her than her grandson, Harry. I really do believe. And I know, I can't remember everything, but I know Queen Elizabeth ordered the death of Diana. She was so jealous of Diana. I have a jealous streak. I do. In my brain, in my own body and my own brain, I get jealous of, if my, boyfriend cheats on me or something. I get jealous like that. I tend to admire people rather than be jealous of them. That's why I really am so upset at William's behavior towards Harry. And, he obviously has that jealous streak, but it's like an insecurity. Well, I guess with a woman who's jealous of other women hitting on her boyfriend, it's an insecurity too. That's how my jealousy plays out. But when I see a person exhibit the qualities I admire the person. I don't envy them. I don't get jealous. I'm so mesmerized with their beauty and their talents, and I admire them. I can't help but admire them, and I want to be like them. I aspire to be like them. That is my natural reaction to someone who exhibits qualities that I'd like to emulate. Yeah, I guess I do get jealous of attention that other people get that I never get. I guess in that way I get jealous. I don't know. I think it's more superficial. It's like I just use it as a joke. Like, I just use it to feel sorry for myself, I guess. And that's not healthy, I know. When somebody is so great and I think they're so incredible, I admire them. I tend to admire them. I don't get jealous of them. I don't try to put them down or anything. I can't even imagine doing that. I'm so sad at William's behavior towards Harry. So sad. He's been the heir his whole life. I mean, what more does he want? I mean, Harry never had that. He was always the spared. The heir, I mean, he has everything before him. He's got it all planned out, and He's the star, and what more does he want? And, you know, why can't he be happy for Harry and admire Harry and be so delighted that Harry has found his purpose, his mission in life? Why isn't he happy for him? Why is he so threatened by that when he's the heir? He's gonna be the King of England, okay? Harry's not. He doesn't want to be, actually, right? So I don't know what William's problem is. It just really makes me sad. I just want William to know that Diana is rolling in her grave over this. She raised you to not be an heir. She raised you to be a good person who loved his brother. She raised you two sons to support one another. She knew there was going to be a storm and many storms, and you were supposed to be allies. You weren't supposed to be enemies. She's so upset. I'm a medium. Maybe she's speaking through me right now. She is so upset that you would allow others to come between you and your brother Harry. Harry always got the short end of the stick. Harry always was treated as second best. And then Harry finally comes into his own and finds his own place in the world. And what do? You try to push him down, try to make him second best. I mean, why does that threaten you? I have my ideas. Harry and William were not naturally conceived. You have to know this. This is the royal bloodline. It's a monarchy. They both have many, more than one father. I don't know how many. I don't remember the details. Because the firstborn is the heir, the queen, who was me, and I guess her courtesans and, the firm chose his fathers, his biological fathers, his genetic fathers. But the deal was, okay, you get to pick the heirs' fathers, and my people, Claire's people, now that I'm Claire now, I'm my true self, this is my true identity. Claire's people, we got to pick the fathers of the spare, and of course we're going to pick the fathers with more EQ. They're both my sons, but look what happens when you pair my IQ with men with not as much EQ. Okay. My daddy always used to tell me that EQ matters more than IQ. If he had to choose, he would say EQ was more important than IQ. Harry and William are a good case study in this. Harry obviously got more EQ. And what does that do? It helps support the IQ he got from me. And yeah, he struggled so much when he lost his mother. And I guess he was like 12 or 13, right? He was going on 13. William was more mature. He was 15, as I recall, and he wasn't as vulnerable to damage done because he was more mature. And so Harry was, had so many challenges that William didn't have. And he somehow found a way to overcome them. And people helped him. Going into the military was the best thing Harry ever did for himself. I know he wasn't focused enough to be a good student. That doesn't mean he was stupid. That was one thing I guess we did intentionally. Made sure nobody knew how smart he was. And one way to camouflage intelligence was to give him a little bit of, what is it called? Attention deficit disorder. Just a little touch, right? So people wouldn't know how smart he was. And he wouldn't know how smart he was. But, the military brought it out of him, didn't they? And I'm so proud of Harry. I was so worried about him for years. I'm just so glad that he was able to turn things around. I'm so proud of him. But I'm afraid that Diana's worst nightmare has manifested in William. I know William has gone through a lot. I don't want to slight him. I know he lost his mother too. And I know the pressures of being the heir were very difficult, but when his mother died, other people took over the management of William, and I'm very sad that he gave in to the pressures and developed into a man that does not honor his mother, Diana, who I personally knew. Diana was the most humble, sweetest, charming person, one of the most charming, sweetest, humble people I've ever met. I think she would be so, and maybe she's telling me she's so horrified that William is exhibiting this entitled attitude, expecting Harry to always be number two, expecting Harry to report to him, to ask his permission, be subservient to him because he's the heir. I mean, that is disgusting, William. You should know better. You know better. Those courtesans are not the royal family. You are. The royal family is a bloodline. They are not in the bloodline. You are. You know better than them. And I'm afraid when I was Queen Elizabeth, I allowed the courtesans to rule and be queen. And I wasn't queen. I allowed their ideas to trump my own. I doubted my own ideas. I doubted myself. I believed that the heart was weak and that wasn't being a leader. When you followed your heart, you were a wuss. That's not my word. I don't know where that came from, but that must be a British term, slang term. But it's the reverse that is true. And it was because of my poor example that we have this mess that we're experiencing today. It's my fault. I mean, when I was 8 years old in another body, I was an 8-year-old who didn't like my own body. I didn't like that I cried. I didn't like that I cared. I thought it was weak, and I got in that other body, and I didn't feel the pain. I didn't feel I didn't care. And I thought that was superior somehow, and it's inferior. Insects don't care. You're like an insect when you don't care. What I'm really affected by right this moment is I just turned on my TV to watch a short that featured Lady C. And in this short, she states that everything that comes out of Meghan's, I was going to say, arse, out of her mouth is dirtier than her anus, hers and your anus. And she says it with such conviction, and it's so disgusting to hear someone talk about another human being like that. And I guess I should take a moment to explain, since I made my last video about her, my only video about Lady C, when I made that video, I didn't remember her. And I stated it very clearly in the video that I didn't remember her. But once I finished that video, it suddenly, I think I woke up the next day and realized, oh my goodness, my ex-husband knew her. And in New York, he was one of her boy toys. And, I mean, he was passed around. The New York club scene had these women that would pass him around. He was like an underage kid. He was 16 years old. And it made him proud. He loved it. He was 16 years old. It's every 16-year-old fantasy, I guess. But, that's pedophilia. He was underage. But, I guess it was the 80s. That didn't stop a lot of people. Nowadays, I think people are more conscientious about it than they were back then. My ex-husband, who also is my triplet brother, by the way, and we didn't know this when we got married, not consciously anyway. When we were born, we were separated at birth, and my twin was placed with some relatives who had given birth to my brother Mark, and who would later raise my full brother, whom my mother carried and gave birth to in 1968. His name is Greg, because my twin wasn't doing well. I was the only healthy, normal baby at birth, triplet. But both my identical twin sister, Chris, and our triplet brother, they were unhealthy and abnormal at birth because my mother was injected with heroin and drank gin out of the bottle and was an alcoholic. It was amazing we ever survived her pregnancy in the first place, and unbelievable that I was ever born healthy and normal. I'm the reason why they took the idiot out of idiot savant. We are all savants, which means our brains had to overcompensate for damage being done to it, and we became more advanced than our genius brains would have become had we been the product of a healthy pregnancy. I don't know, I'm not your typical savant. I can't do mathematical problems and tell you what happened on a certain date in history randomly or anything like that. I'm a different kind of savant. I was a child prodigy. I created music. I co-wrote movies, literature. As a child, they really got a lot out of me that they make money off of today. And I haven't received one penny from any of my work. Other people take credit and get all the money, or at least they're part of the money, while my money sits in an account that I can't access, or accounts, plural. It's a very depressing thing for me because I didn't always remember my past and all that I achieved. And as soon as I could, I was instructed to go to the bank when I could remember everything. I did, and I have again and again and again and again for many years, but no bank has ever cared to give me what's mine. And it's very sad for me. It's a very, very sad life. Very depressing. I haven't enjoyed any kind of life that Prince Harry or Prince William has enjoyed. I know that they don't, I know Harry did not enjoy that life, but even now he's able to capitalize on his life story in a way I've never have been allowed to. I'm happy for him, but more than that, I am sad for myself and depressed that he gets that opportunity, and he's my child, and I'm not allowed that opportunity. I'm just so sad that I don't have a life and they get to have a life. Yeah, I know Harry has suffered and has taken on that role like I have. He came to America, right? Karmically, we're more connected than I am with William. I've never had a life of privilege ever. Harry has walked away from that life of privilege because it was killing him. He wasn't allowed to be who he truly was. He had no choice. I really meant to talk about the book, but I'm just talking about my reaction, I guess, and going into the backstory a little bit. I didn't really intend to go right into that. One thing I want to mention is Catherine, Kate. I remember when William broke up with Kate and how much she clung to him, trying to convince the public they weren't over yet. She was trying to play it cool, and for everybody to accuse Meghan of being so obsessed with being royal and her titles and everything is so wrong. I remember Kate being obsessed with William, and they seemed destined to end up together. Everybody thought they were a great pair, but when they broke up, I guess it was they needed to break up so William could have some kind of life as a single guy before he did choose to get married, right? Guys seem to need that. And women need it too. We need to sort out who we are and what our own identity is. That's the thing about women. We tend to identify with our children and our husbands to the point of, my puppy wants to come up. Hi, Lily. Come on up. Okay. To the point of negating ourselves, and we don't know we're doing it as young women. We just think that's part of being a woman or something, and it shouldn't be, Lily, say hi to everybody. It's a baby. We women need to embrace our true identity and not hide behind facades and stereotypes. And life is unique to everyone, and if you just are like everybody else, what kind of life is that? That's not living your true life. It's living a lie. And Kate is just, I know I selected her, and I selected her because she was just such a stereotypical princess. And I see the queen coming out in her as time goes on, but she was just the perfect princess, with a little tiny waist, and she's so pretty, and she's just perfect, right? But it's just alarming to me that she would be so obsessed with not being upstaged by Meghan, both her and William, not being upstaged by Harry and Meghan, and Harry and Meghan need to stay in their place. And it's just such rubbish. See, I'm using these British terms, I guess, to get through to them. It's rubbish. This is ridiculous. This idea of a princess, it's like a cartoon, and it's not reality. It's just a fantasy. It's not real life. And we're all human. We all play the
role of the fool on occasion. We're all imperfect. Nobody's perfect. And anyone who tries to play the role of perfect is delusional. There's no such thing. We're all the same. We're all human. We all fail. We're all weak. We're all pathetic, and we just make the best of it. And some people are more on stage than other people, and some people put on a show that captures the attention of more audience members than others. That's all it is. It's a show. It's not reality. And by the way, I haven't said that I really wish Princess Catherine, the very best. I hope she recovers from her abdominal surgery. I hope it's not serious. I sense, because she doesn't want to talk about it, that it is pretty darn serious. I don't want anything to happen to her. I mean, you wouldn't think that someone at her age would have anything seriously wrong with her. It's such a shock to think that something serious could be wrong. I hope she fully recovers as soon as possible. I hope she feels better as soon as possible. It sounds like she is feeling better, and I'm grateful. And I wish her the best. I just want her to know that she doesn't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to play the role of the princess, the perfect princess. It's too much pressure on herself, and maybe that's why she got ill. Nobody can live under that kind of pressure to be perfect. And in a sense, Meghan is healthier because she knew to get the hell out of there. I know Kate doesn't have that option, and maybe both her and William are upset because they're stuck. But Harry, he's found a way out. Harry and Meghan, they don't have that out. They're stuck and forced to portray this idyllic existence that doesn't exist. You know, they're just two people in a weird, unusual situation that we're all fascinated with, right? And I'm sorry there's no way out. I mean, there always is a way out, but you're not willing to pay the price that Harry and Meghan were willing to pay. Okay, just be honest, you're not willing to do that. And that's why you're stuck, not because you really are stuck. Anyway, I want to remind them they are my genetic children, and this is my monarchy. This is my throne that I am graciously extending to them. It doesn't belong to them, and it won't belong to them if and when William becomes king. And it was always the plan for William, my son, to become king. I expected that he would become king. I was going to say queen. King when Elisabeth died, because I'm American. I'm not going to sit on that throne. It's mine. I could, but I'm American. I'm not. Yes, I spent time in England. I even spoke with the Queen's English for a time when I was a young child, thanks to speaking English with Daddy so much. I know I talk about Jose Tota as my daddy, and he's the true identity of my daddy. But when he was my daddy, he was inside the body of my genetic father, Bert Fields, who was Queen Elizabeth's twin brother. And I believe he was the firstborn twin. And he always allowed Elizabeth to be who she was and always stepped aside for Elizabeth, but he still is the firstborn twin. I mean, of course, Bert Fields did die in 1985, right after I had married my triplet brother, so Bert Fields is no longer. But I just want to remind everybody in the royal family in England that there's a whole other branch to the royal family that supersedes all of them. First of all, the Queen was not the oldest child of King George. I guess he was the sixth, right? My grandma, Ruth Elliott Willis, was. And she was American and living in Iowa, born and raised in Iowa, USA. And then she had, at age 13, just like the Queen, gave birth when she was 13 years old secretly. And, she gave birth to my father, Dennis Wayne Elliott, who passed away in 2020. That's going on 4 years. And then he was shipped off to Iowa for Ruth to raise. And, Ruth knew she didn't give birth to him. She didn't know that was her genetic son. Queen Elizabeth secretly gave birth to my grandma Ruth's genetic son, my father, Dennis Wayne Elliott. And then he was shipped off to Iowa for Ruth to then raise him as her firstborn. But Ruth had given birth at age 13 as well, secretly, to a baby who was shipped off to Japan, and that baby grew up to be Daisaku Ikeda of the SGI president Daisaku Ikeda, who is my genetic father as well. Dennis Wayne Elliott is my genetic father, and so is Daisaku Ikeda. And Daisaku Ikeda, my dad, he passed away just late last year. I guess it was November 15th, right? Everybody has died. Like, there's like a wave of deaths in my family. It's the most bizarre thing, and I suppose it's on some level planned. The universe planned it this way, because I'm about to take my place for the first time in public on the world stage. I mean, at least it's my hope. I know I wasn't born for no reason at all. They didn't go to all this effort, and I didn't go through all this pain and suffering for nothing, just to lay in my bed and go to sleep and not wake up one day, when I'm 90 whatever, 100 whatever. I have a mission, and I'm not going to leave this earth until I fulfill my mission. Sorry, sorry devils everywhere. I'm still here, and I am here to achieve a mission, to fulfill a mission, whether you like it or not. So my point being, and by the way, I know my uncle in Utah wants me to mention that my grandma Ruth gave birth to him, but he is the genetic son of Queen Elizabeth and is a direct descendant of Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. I mean, everyone always thought that he was the product of an affair that my grandmother had with Henry Willis, who became my step-grandfather after my grandma passed away. My grandpa, Elliott, was between 6th and 7th grade for me, so I was 12. So it was like 77, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. She was in Lake of the Ozarks when that happened, and she went back to Iowa. By then he was a widower, and they got married. She waited several years. It wasn't until the 80s they got married. So there's a whole other side of the royal family, and that no one knows about. And the headquarters is here in America, Back in the War of 1812, Britain secretly took back America. America was no longer free, and we had to take it back somehow, and that's why I was born, to take back America. I'm part of a lot of bloodlines, and King George of the Revolutionary War, he's one of my genetic fathers. The tyrant, the dictator who started the human revolution. I mean, human. That's a term in Nichiren Buddhism. The American Revolution, the human revolution, that's like, supposed to be like our own evolution and the way that we empower ourselves over time. And that's so funny. I said human revolution. I meant American Revolution. And by the way, that's a term by Jose Toda, human revolution. But yeah, he started the Revolutionary War, and yeah, I'm his genetic child. So is my husband, Dean. I have a lot of other bloodlines, and so I automatically have authority. At birth, I automatically had authority over both my grandmothers and, the Queen, and her older sister, Ruth, who's my grandma, Ruth Elliott Willis, who passed away in, I guess, 2011 or something. And I have authority over everybody else, even my own husband, who, if you think about it, he's senior, but he's only part of one bloodline. I am part of so many, and there are many fathers in various bloodlines that are my father multiple times. They made sure that I superseded everyone, not just a little bit, out by a lot. And yeah, my identical twin sister and my triplet brother also, they're my full triplet siblings. They also are of all those bloodlines, but the problem is, and I know my twin hates this, but the bottom line is she is not normal. I know she wants to think I'm not normal. Okay, yeah, I'm a one-of-a-kind genius, yeah, and I'm way over her head because she is retarded in parts of her brain. She's very advanced in some parts of her brain and retarded in other areas, okay, below normal, which is retarded. And I'm sorry to be blunt, but that's the truth. And it's sometimes it's the retarded person who thinks that they're superior to all, you know. It's funny because my natural tendency is to think that there's something wrong with me all the time. Since I was a child, I blame myself for everything that happens, and that's the mark of a leader, honestly. And a lot of people don't understand that. A dictator is not a leader. An abuser is not a leader. Somebody who dominates and persecutes and hurts people is not a leader. That is a coward. That is an abuser. You think, I feel like I have a low self-esteem, but somebody who can't help but put other people down so they can feel better, that is the definition of the lowest form of self-esteem one can have. Like, you can't stand anyone being better than you in any way. Because I guess a person like that, allowing people to be better than them makes them feel, I mean, it must make them feel really bad. I mean, they feel so small, and so their knee-jerk reaction is to push everyone down so they don't feel as small, you know? I mean, they feel smaller than I could ever feel, I guess, even though I'm the one that feels like there's something wrong with me, or, you know, it's my natural reaction, like, oh, what's wrong with me? I blame myself so much that happens, and I have to wake up and realize, no, it's them. It's not, it has nothing to do with me. It's them. What happened to me is not me. It's just what happened to me. I've done and continue to do the best I can with what situation I find myself in, and that's all I can do is do the best I can. It's not my fault. I'm just doing the best I can with what I've got, and that's all I can do, and take it day by day and step by step. That's all I can do. That's all any person can do. But there are so many people who are considered leaders because of the kind of control and power and domination they have over people around them. That's not being a leader. That's being a destroyer. A leader uplifts those around them, or at least does what they know to do to uplift those around them. Yeah, sometimes, you know, in my situation, sometimes that's exposing the truth, exposing people who place themselves above me and against me, who attack me, and exposing them for what and who they are. It's not always having a smile on your face. Sometimes it's going to war just to defend what must be defended. And that's why I have authority over my husband, and authority over the Queen, and of course Charles, who isn't even in the direct lineage. I mean, he is in the family, but he's not in that line. You know, if you think about it. Okay, so Ruth Daisaku, my mother, but she had to marry into the family. She wasn't born, you know, so I guess my mother's omitted because she wasn't born in line. I was born in line, and I know my mother, that, you know, that would infuriate my mother, but that's the way it was, you know, that's the lineage. And I didn't have to wait for anyone to die to have that authority, however. But because of the way it is here on Earth, the order of seniority, well, now that Daisaku Ikeda has passed away, it's official. Hi, Dean. It's official. I'm it. It's not Charles. It's not even William. I'm 58 years old. I know Charles has probably waited longer and all that, but the thing is that Charles has had a very privileged existence, hasn't he? I have not even been allowed. What Meghan and Harry are going through is nothing compared to what I've been through. They're just getting a little baby dose of it, if you can call it that. You know, they have lots of money. They live a good existence, don't they? My life is not plastered all over the tabloids every day. I would love it if it was. I know, it sounds so weird. I know it'll be very different once it is. And I definitely sympathize with the invasion of privacy. I mean, I wouldn't like that at all myself. It would make me angry. I'd get angry, a little angrier than I see others get about it. All right, so let me talk more about the book now. The thing about Harry's story is that he had a hard time finding a woman who wanted to put up with all this stuff. I guess William had no problem. I mean, the first woman he goes out with ends up his queen or whatever. That's because he's the heir, right? I guess if a woman knows she's going to be queen, she'll put up with a lot, right? And I guess Kate was determined, right? I mean, I remember thinking, boy, she's not going to let him go. I mean, I remember that about Kate, and for everyone to be accusing Meghan of having that obsession with her titles, I remember Kate being obsessed with ending up with William. And I mean, I know she was a young girl who obviously was in love, yeah, I'm sure, and she didn't want to let her guy go. I know when I was young, and you don't have to be young to not want to let go of the man you love. I mean, of course. But, I think Kate was very thrilled with the idea of becoming queen one day. Meghan never was going to become queen. Anyway, she's American. We Americans are different like that. And yeah, just becoming a princess is kind of cool. But Meghan wasn't even allowed to become princess like Kate. Kate was duchess for a while. It's my opinion that you marry a prince, that makes you a princess. And thus, I so declare in this moment that Harry and Meghan are Prince and Princess of America. That's what I declare them to be. We're not going to be doing the little areas and sections of America, like they do in Britain. They are Prince Harry and Princess Meghan of America. That's what they are. At least Kate got to be princess officially over there, right? She had to go around being duchess for years, decades, right? I don't know if it was decades, but a long time. Finally, she's princess, right? And the next step is queen. Well, Meghan is princess in my book. I don't see her guilty of any of the bullshit I see these people making money off. These people are paid to make up these lies. Somebody's paying them. I guess it's the courtesans, the firm that's paying them. I mean, Lady C, she must be paid a lot of money because she is so vicious. I mean, where does she get off, like, condemning a human being like this? I mean, what has Meghan ever done? She has nothing to show, to back up her harsh words with. And why would you speak about anybody so harshly? Like, everything that comes out of her mouth is dirtier than my anus or your anus. I mean, who says stuff like that? And oh yeah, I never finished my story about my ex-husband, my triplet brother, when he was 16, being passed around by all these women in the New York City party, club scene. So he was really excited because she was, I don't know, she called herself Lady C even back then. And then he heard, this is rumor now, I'm not saying, I don't know anything about this myself, but the rumor was that she was a man. Her whole story about being treated like a boy her whole life, and what a terrible thing her family did. This whole thing about how her family treated her like a boy her whole life, and what a terrible thing they did. And, she's even gotten her family to go along with the story. It's not true. She is like one of the first transgender people. She had surgery. She was a man, she was a male who had surgery and became a woman. And here we are in 2024, and it's trendy now to be transgender. And she won't even, admit it. Even today. It's disgusting. I know this is rumor. I don't actually know. I wasn't there. I didn't witness anything. I'm not claiming, anything, but she's so vicious. It's like, I shouldn't even apologize and be so careful in setting up this story. I mean, who cares? I mean, she's so mean to Harry and Meghan. She's so vicious because she gets so much money. They pay her so much money. And she is not related to me. She is not related to the House of Windsor. She promotes herself as being related to every member of the royal family in Europe. And I don't know what she says. It's just bullshit. She just says what she wants. She's disgusting. And she was a man who had surgery to become a woman. That is what I understand, because my husband told me about how when he found out that she was a man. I mean, back in those days, that's what they would say, I mean, it's not correct, you know, she was a transgender woman. But back then it was like, you know, he heard that she had, back then they called it a sex change operation. It was really like a big deal back then. It wasn't as embraced as it is today in 2024. And he stopped seeing her. He stopped going over to her house when he found that out, that she was a man. He had no idea. She used to be a man. And he didn't want to be with a woman who used to be a man. And I didn't have any memory of this when I made that video about Lady C. And you can find it here if you want to watch it. Small world. I mean, small world. But she's not a member of the royal family. Lady C, you know, she married some dude who had some kind of title. I don't even remember. It's in my video, I guess. She was married to some guy. She didn't have a title at birth. She just married a guy for a while. That's it. So, you know, for her to say she's related to everybody, every member of the royal, it's bullshit. It's just PR. And I guess the palace loves it and pays her a lot of money to trash Harry and Meghan. And it makes me sick. And it makes me sick that William and Kate, for that matter, listen to the people who pay Lady C so much money to trash Harry and Meghan. It makes me sick that they listen to one word they have to say. And I know they're like, they don't have control. I guess even Charles doesn't seem to have any control. Everybody is controlled by the firm. Who are they? Who's the firm? Oh, they're just the people in his, I guess they're descended from people who have always managed the royals, right? And they just manipulate them and use them for their own purposes. They just get off on being abusive and manipulating them. And there's also a lot of SA. After the S comes an E, and then after the E comes an X, and then after the X comes a U, and then after the U comes an A. Oh, and then don't forget the L at the end. SA in the royal family. I mean, they're like dogs performing. It's like mating in front of an audience. I was there in England when I was 13 years old. My father, Dennis Elliott, forced me to take my aspirin. That's what he called it. And that was the way he trained me and brainwashed me my whole life. Take my aspirin. I don't need an aspirin. I'm not sick. Take your aspirin. And then it was an SEX. It was equivalent to, and it was the only way he could get me to cooperate. And yeah, we all, the Queen Mom, the Queen, Diana, before she was even married to Charles, all in the audience, Princess Anne, her brothers, everybody, Charles, watching as people, you know, before them, they had their chairs all lined up, and then there was a clearing like a stage that different people had SEX in front of them, and bravo, you know, I mean, this is the world the royal family lives in behind closed doors. It's sick. And, you know, Meghan, she fit right in, you know, in Hollywood. There's a lot of that in Hollywood as well. And she grew up in Hollywood and probably was the victim. I could tell that she's gone through a lot. And that's why she's hypersensitive and hyper vigilant, because she's been through a lot of that stuff in Hollywood. And so of course he fit right in and seemed a perfect match with the royal family for a while, until the firm became threatened. All right, well, let me just see what else pops out at me here. It's so funny, the things that Harry is known, the blunders that Harry is known for. He tells the story, and there's always somebody who encouraged him to do it, like the Nazi uniform. It was William and Kate who told him to choose that costume. Who knew? And then, like, that extraordinarily expensive house that he and Meghan chose to live in, it was Tyler Perry who told them, buy it. You know, I've always been a little surprised that if they knew they were getting cut off and they had limited resources, why they bought a mansion. People have said, you know, can you imagine the taxes they have to pay every year on that house? And yeah, I mean, do they need, I don't know how many bathrooms. They have 9 bathrooms? I'm not sure. I haven't looked it all up, but I think I remember something like 9 or 14 bathrooms. Crazy. I mean, do they really need such, I mean, I know when Meghan walked in, she just knew it, and it was beautiful. And yeah, I know I love beautiful homes too, but I certainly don't live in one because I can't afford it. I know they need protection. And this is what is so disgusting about the firm, that they took away their security when they came to America. The agreement was option 3, right? Which was not being totally cut off, but just middle of the road, not being a part of the royal family either, just having a more independent. I mean, why can't they adjust lives accordingly? Like, if Harry and Meghan are not comfortable in their role in England, why can't they live abroad and adjust their interactions in the royal family accordingly? Why does it have to be all or nothing? And how is them coming to America an assault on the monarchy? I just don't understand that. It's wrong. It's just totally wrong. What is their goal in doing that? What is the goal? To bring them back, to convince them to come back so they have total domination of them? I mean, when they had total domination of them, they tormented them with the media. So what is it? They obviously weren't welcome in England, and then they want to leave, and then they're tormented again for leaving and blamed for leaving when, you know, everybody made it really hard for them to exist in England. I just don't understand that. It's insanity. The bottom line is that this environment is the environment of my family in America. My own family in America did the same thing to me. They abused me, they threw me in the garbage, and then blamed me for being in the garbage. This is what my own family has done to me in America. And it's the same thing with Harry. He was abused, he was thrown in the garbage, and then they blame him for being in the garbage. That is what a narcissistic institution, a narcissistic family does. Okay? It's not Meghan. It's not Harry who's narcissistic. It's this firm. It's these people. It's William. I'm sorry, William, but you're showing narcissistic tendencies, and it makes me sad, because that was the last thing your mother wanted, was for you to become some dictator, traitor to your brother and your mother. That was the last thing she ever wanted for you, and she grieves. That's what she just said. She grieves. Okay, so it's just funny because there's another side of things that the public doesn't know. Oh, so William and Kate thought that was hilarious. You know, I mean, I know if I go to a costume store and I see a Nazi uniform, I think it's hilarious too. It's the ridiculousness of it. It's so, like, ridiculous, right? A Nazi uniform. But the problem was that Harry represents the royal family, right? And the royal family has a history with the Nazis, unfortunately. And, you know, actually, we're all the product of the Nazis. You know, Hitler is one of my genetic fathers, I believe. He was one of the genetic fathers of my grandmother, Grandma Flanagan. My mother, that's the other side of the family. So yeah, it's not funny what was done. And I'm Jewish too, by blood. I mean, I've never been Jewish by faith, but I am Jewish by blood. I'm descended from a Jewish woman who went to a concentration camp in Russia. I'm so opposed to everything Nazi, but a Nazi costume is actually kind of like, it's ridiculous. It's like, you know, the Nazis are ridiculous, and that's what's so funny about it. And William and Kate thought so too, but y'all forget, and maybe William and Kate, could they have, like, kind of known? I mean, they must have known on some level that he was going to get a lot of flack for that. You know, I mean, could they have been setting Harry up? I mean, that's horrible to think of, but I mean, come on, you've grown up in the royal family, you know you're a representative, you know there's going to be a photo of you in a Nazi uniform. It's not going to go over well because the family has connections to Hitler and the Nazis. And so that's why it was an issue. And William, who was the student, who was the person who was groomed to be the monarch in the future, he definitely would have had it in the back of his mind that that wouldn't be appropriate. It wouldn't be an appropriate costume for his brother to wear, because somebody's going to snap a picture and he's going to end up all over the tabloids. I mean, he had to have. Kate as well. I mean, come on, guys. And they were like, yes, pick the Nazi one. Yeah, that's so funny. I mean, it is hilarious. I admit. I mean, if you don't have the burden of representing a family in the spotlight, you know, who has connections to Nazi Germany, yeah, it would be a hilarious costume, because it's so ridiculous. Nazis are ridiculous. They're idiots. And yeah, what a ridiculous costume. I don't think that Harry meant anything by it. He was just going to a costume party and just trying to be funny. And yeah, Kate and William thought it was really funny. And then this house, you know, I'm sure Tyler Perry thought they had a lot more money than they do. You know, I'm talking about Harry and Meghan. You shouldn't be buying houses because some celebrity pal tells you to. You're the one that knows your finances. I don't know. I do admit that Harry has been a little sheltered, and I'm glad he's finding out how the other half lives. And I hope William does soon. Yeah, I don't live any kind of life like that. And yeah, I guess maybe on a certain level, I am jealous that they get to live that life and I don't. Not that I would ever trade my life experience for their life. You know, my life experience is invaluable. And I'm grateful for what came with all my suffering and pain. I'm grateful for what it gave me. But yeah, I would really like to have a better life and to have a better material existence. I have to say I am jealous of their material existence. That is some way that I am jealous. I don't think I admire it. I am jealous that they get to have a good material existence without worrying about where money comes from. Now, I know Harry and Meghan have had to worry a little bit, but I don't know why they're worrying so much if they've got his mummy's inheritance. All they need to do is just go and get a regular house. And, you know, on a certain part of this book, he talks about how he was scrambling to find security for them, and the firm recommended some company, and he found out that it would cost $6 million a year. I didn't know security was that expensive. I know he needs 24/7 security, but I was trying to figure it out. $100 an hour, right? Wouldn't that be about right for security 24/7? $100 an hour. There's probably like two guys or two people on a property at once with all the equipment, right? Surveilling the equipment, and then oh, I guess you got to have bodyguards, right, when you leave the place. So I mean, I guess you got to have, like, I don't know, so 2 bodyguards. But I was just thinking, at $100 an hour, 24 hours a day, that's $2,400 a day. And I figured out it's like not quite $1 million a year for that. Okay. And then bodyguards. Okay. I didn't think about the bodyguards. So you got to have 2 bodyguards with you every time you leave the house. So I would think that's maybe another $100 an hour, right? And like, let's say you go on, how many outings a day, a month do you have? Like, I don't know, okay, per week you maybe go out, say you limit it to like twice, well, let's say 3 times a week, and each outing is, I don't know, let's say they average like 3 hours, or why don't we just say 5? So 5 times 3 is 15 hours, times 4 is 60 hours a month, times 10 is 600, you know, and that's 10 months, and then 2 more months, 720, say 800 hours a year, $100 an hour, 800 hours times 100 is, yeah, it's 80,000 a year. So 80,000, so it puts you a little over $1 million. Yeah, like 1.2 million a year. It's not 6 million. I mean, what is the 6 million for? I mean, what do you have aircrafts going over your property? I mean, what are you doing? I don't know. I mean, maybe they need to scope out where you're going. There's going to be 2 bodyguards with you, and then there's people to scope out where you're going, so that requires a little more. I don't know. Okay, so add another 500 grand. So it's 1.5 million a year. Not even 2 million. So where's the $6 million figure come from? I'm just a little confused to how it could be so expensive to have somebody surveilling your house, your property, 2 bodyguards with you at all times, somebody scouting out where you're going and making sure the coast is clear and looking out for you. You got your 2 bodyguards, you got 2 people looking around. And I mean, how expensive could that be? I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm lowballing it at $100 an hour. I don't know. I think that's pretty high. So $2 million a year max, not 6. All right, and let's see what else. One thing I was kind of amused at was how he was complaining about Camilla making his room, I'm talking about Harry, Camilla made his room a dressing room for herself. Well, I don't know. I guess Camilla and his father got married. He had lived in the Clarence house from age, I think it was like 20 until the age of 29 or something. He lived there 9 years, and I mean throughout his 20s. And he was upset that she had turned. He moved out finally. I think most families would prefer their children to move out before age 29. He was deployed, right? He was in the military. He wasn't always home throughout that time, but he was still living at home. At a certain point, I would think you would want to have your own place. You wouldn't want to live with your parents. And it wasn't your childhood bedroom, right? It was just your bedroom throughout your 20s. And he's married now, and yeah, she needed a dressing room. Why is it? I just thought it was funny that he was upset about that. I don't know. I think most kids leave home and want to be independent before the age of 30, and it was a luxury that you had a home with your father for so long. I just notice how sheltered they are, him and Harry and William are. I chose to leave my family when I was 18 years old, and yeah, I suffered financially. My father helped me out very minimally. I never got what I felt like I deserved, and I felt like my brother always got more because he never left home, really. I mean, he really never did. But yeah, I left home. I left my family behind, and I paid a very high price for that. It was my independence. I wasn't independent financially, okay? I suffered because I couldn't support myself financially, but rather than go home, I was homeless. Yes, I stayed with my uncle for 7 months. I visited my father and my stepmother for weeks at a time, like anybody else. My father, would help me financially when I was younger a little bit here and there, but it wasn't enough. They didn't help me become financially free. They didn't help me get my education so that I could develop a career. It was really hard for me because I was so abused to stand up and do what I needed to do to survive. It was really hard. I just barely survived, because I was RAP 18 my whole life, okay? And I had to heal from that. That was really hard to overcome and heal from, but I've done it, even if it's still sad. All right, what else pops out at me? Yeah, it's just about William just always trying to make something wrong with his brother. It's sad. I think page 401 says it all. Meghan had just given birth to their daughter, Elisabeth. Harry wanted to be the first face Elisabeth saw when she was born, and he literally took her out of the womb and cradled her and talked to her, and they had heard from an Ayurvedic, is that what you say, how you say it, Ayurvedic doctor, that the first things you want to talk to your baby as soon as they're born, because it has a profound effect on them, and to when they're born, tell them all the things you dream for them. And that's what he was trying to do. He told her, I'll keep you safe, and then surrendered her to Meg. And she told him that she'd never been more in love with him than in that moment when he told their daughter, cradled her in her arms, and told her that he would keep her safe. And she wrote in her journal some notes that she shared with him, with Harry. I think this is Harry saying, I read them as a love poem. I read them as a testament, a renewal of our vows. I read them as a citation, a remembrance, a proclamation. I read them as a decree. She said, that was everything. She said, that is a man. My love, she said, that is not a spare. That's right. Harry has the behavior of an heir, and William has the behavior of a spare. It's like they've swapped roles. And this has happened in my own family as well. My mother was actually my niece, and my grandmother was actually my genetic mother, and my grandmother was actually my mother's genetic grandmother. We swapped roles. Even though she was my grandma, I grew up with her as my grandmother. My grandma was actually my genetic mother. And my mother, even though she grew up as my grandmother's daughter, adopted daughter, my grandmother was actually her genetic grandmother. And so we swapped roles, and it did not go well. It did not go at all well. You know, my mother was always jealous of me, always resented me, always tried to keep me down. My own mother, at least Harry and William had a mother who truly loved them. My mother was jealous of me and tried to keep me down. And I think that's worse than a brother being jealous of you and trying to keep you down. I have a brother who also is jealous of me and is always trying to keep me down. Areas of the book where William insinuates that Harry is delusional or that he needs help or whatever sounds just like my brother. Always trying to put me down, always trying to put me in a box I don't belong in. It's just like my family. Welcome to America, Harry and Meghan. Welcome. Prince Harry, Princess Meghan, welcome to America. Well, Meghan never left, right? Born and raised, right? In my birthland, California. What else stands out? Anything? You know, the fact of the matter is, Meghan is American. I relate to her because I went to England and people didn't understand me either in the royal family. Meghan is American. She's not the devil. She's not evil. She's from a different culture than you. And all of you are well-traveled. You should understand the difference in our cultures. In America, women are a little more assertive than women are in any other culture on earth. That's the beauty of America. At the same time, people still try to keep us in our place in America. But in America, women are more assertive than any other women in the world. I have more difficulties with women than I do with men. I think men find it very attractive when a woman, at least a secure man, finds it very attractive when a woman asserts herself. It's the insecure men who think that they have to be superior to women and keep them in their place who are bothered by it, but they're affected too. I think on some level they too find it attractive. And maybe they don't like that, and it's kind of like they're trying to push down that feeling of attraction, you know, that they have for women like that. Like, they want to be in total domination of women. I don't know. I find more men like that down here in the South than anywhere else, but I think especially healthy men find it very attractive when a woman asserts herself. And it's one of the traits of our culture. And we don't understand British culture. I know I don't. All these indirect innuendos and stiff upper lip, and it's so unhealthy to keep your emotions inside and not let them out. I mean, this is what happens when you try to keep things down. They bust out and cause war and plague, and that's what I see in the family. I mean, if you would just express yourself and be open and allow yourself to be vulnerable, that's what's healthy. Keeping everything in and being stoic and trying to be something that is like a robot is not natural and is unhealthy. And yeah, you get cancer doing stuff like that. I know I did. Maybe it would be worse for me if I wasn't expressing myself and allowing myself vulnerable and letting it out. And I'm not talking about abusing people, you know, not talking about letting it out and hurting people in the process, letting it out and talking to people and working it out. I mean, yes, sometimes it's not pretty and it takes a while to work it out. It's all about intention. It's not about hurting people. You know, it's not an excuse to hurt people and to find a way to channel the rage so that it gets out of you and then hurts another person. That's not the goal. The goal is to fix the core of the issue that's hurting you, to create all this rage or anger. What's wrong? What do you need to look at? What do all of us need to look at? Let's look at the cause and let's make a different cause so we get a different effect, you know? Yeah, I didn't expect this to go this way, me talking about this book. Also, another thing I want to mention is that I want to tell Harry and William that it was Camilla who brought your parents together. You know, the Queen wanted him to marry these other girls who Camilla couldn't see your father, Charles, ending up with, and she didn't like them. And it was Camilla who insisted that Charles, send away from me so I could supersede the Queen's choice of a wife for him. And she had Diana in mind. I guess she had done her research. She had her people. She was helping Charles find a proper wife. And I'm sure she had the idea that it would be a threesome. I at the time, I didn't even think about that. It wasn't even an idea that Camilla could be thinking of that element of it. But I do think that now that I'm older and understand how things work, I do think that was part of it. And she thought she was very enamored with Diana, and with the way Diana presented it to the world, it really wasn't the full truth. It really wasn't. Camilla guided Diana and helped her and brought her together with Charles. I mean, maybe it was behind the scenes, I don't know, but I know it was Camilla who introduced me to Diana. And I know it was Camilla who was there when I was forced to perform under the influence of a very powerful SEXDRUG. She was there, and she told her that this was why Diana needed to become queen, so she could help children like me. And it was Diana's determination to help children like me. But then when Mother Teresa was in that, remember that scene with Mother Teresa talking to Diana around towards the end of her life? She was caught on camera talking to Mother Teresa. I think when she was looking at the mines, wasn't it around then that she was on camera talking to Mother Teresa? Mother Teresa told her how my life was ruined and that I didn't even get to go to college. I mean, I never was able to even finish college. And she's on camera reacting to that and in that field, and she's upset. And I do believe that she was going to do something just before she died that the Queen was not going to allow, and that's why she had to die. And I humbly apologize. I don't remember it, of course, because I don't have memories of what kind of life I lived in other bodies. I just get a little snippet or two to know I was them, and that's it. I have no memory. It wasn't my brain. I just know. And I humbly apologize to Harry and William for the Queen's role in Diana's death. I'm really sorry, and I know that the Queen had to watch Harry, her beloved grandson, who she felt very bonded with. She had to watch him suffer, and her heart went out to him. There was something about Harry that unblocked her heart. Let's just put it that way. It was so hard for her to watch him suffer without his mother. And, there was a time when they didn't know if he was going to make it, if he was going to grow up and be okay. And he did. And then it was just so glorious to see him rise from the ashes and become the man he was always meant to be. And she was so proud of him and so soft when it came to Harry. Because of that, he opened her heart. Like, he had a way of opening up her closed heart. She died knowing that she caused this mess, that she was the one solely responsible for this mess. And she died with a sense of shame about it. And yeah, Harry didn't even make it to her bedside before she died. And she's truly sorry for her role in ruining your life, is what she wants to say. And hopefully I can make it better for you here in America. And I really encourage William and Kate to relax and be human and to listen to their heart and not to the courtesans and the firm. The firm and the courtesans are not in control. They want you to think they're in control. That is the tradition, but it's an evil tradition, and it must stop. They need to follow their own intuition, their own hearts, because they have everything they need. They don't need the firm. They just need their heart. I guess that's all that I have to say right now. I give Spare 5 stars out of 5. 5 out of 5 stars. It was a wonderful book. I recommend it to anyone. he's lived his life in a very unusual situation. You should be interested in what he has to say. It's a very honest account, very well stated, and it's in Harry's voice. He had help. There was a writer who wrote it down for him, but it's in Harry's voice and very well put together and structured in Harry's voice. It is Harry's story. I'm very proud that he was able to put everything down in one place. Quite a list of achievements. He really excelled in the military and the army and proved himself to have a very rare level of mental toughness. I'm really proud of him, and you know, obviously you can't be stupid and be able to achieve what he did in the military, in the army. I do think that Harry has been sheltered from a lot of what is the world in which he's now learning, experiencing, and I'm really, really glad that he gets to experience that life in public in America. Highly recommend. It's a good read, and I look forward to one day rereading it. It's one of those books I want to keep on my shelf, and there might be another one in the future after he's lived another few decades. I think he will probably update this and have another book about America, because really this is his experience with Britain. I look forward to hearing about the next phase in his life. Okay, Dean is handing me 1,000 Days. Okay, by Arthur Schlesinger. John F. Kennedy in the White House. Why are you handing me this?
It's in there.
Huh?
It's in there.
What?
It's 1,032 days.
1,032 days, really. But 1,000 days, just for the title. Okay. Thank you, Dean. And now I'm going to read Britney Spears, The Woman in Me. That I promised that was going to be my next book, and it is. So I look forward to telling you what I think about Britney next week. And thank you for watching. If you like, feel free to and subscribe. I'd love it if you subscribe. So you get all your notifications if you're interested in watching what I have to say. Make sure you push that hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. It really helps me out. Okay, thanks a lot.
Lily thanks you, right, Lily? Yeah, Lily's a good girl. She thanks you. Oh, such a baby. Such a baby. Yeah. Lily says subscribe to see my little cute face. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. I'm going to be posting my videos on Sundays. I have to figure out the time, but I'm thinking that it'll be posted, why don't we just say 3 o'clock Sundays, Eastern, 3 o'clock Eastern. See you then.